Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. It is morning for me. I want to show you a cool new feature in SharpCap, which is Chromatic Aberration correction. So I'm going to go into the latest version of SharpCap. This dropped, yesterday, January 29th, 2024. This is a feature that I came up with. I've posted about it on cloudy nights. And I sent it to Dr. Glover, and he kindly agreed to implement it in SharpCap. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what chromatic aberration is real quick. I might have some figures for you. Let's go to cloudy nights and try to find something for you. So I'm in the major and minor planetary imaging, and there is a thread here that I posted on how to image planets in full color with an achromat, and I called this the synthetic blue channel method. And basically, if you come here and read about it, you'll find that all I'm doing is replacing the blue channel with a composite that's constructed from the green channel and the red channel. And I'll talk a little bit later about why this works. And I show some examples. So these were imaged with my 1100 Edge HD, which does not show chromatic aberration. It's basically just to show you how well the method can work. So on the left is the original image, and on the right is the image as reconstructed with none of the information from the original blue channel. There's no blue information in the light on the right. It's all constructed from the green and the red using this method, 2G minus R. So there's Jupiter. You can see the colors, the hues shift a little bit. The reds become a little more orange, but they're really very pleasant, totally acceptable. Way better than if this was blasted with chromatic aberration. You'd have purple bands, and the Jupiter would be yellow, and it would be bathed in this blue light, and just horrible. Works really well. It also works for Saturn, real image on the left, synthetic blue channel on the right. Works for Mars, real image on the left, synthetic blue channel on the right. And so let me just scroll down to a figure that somebody posted. Oh, by the way, this is an actual example. This is John Graham provided me this image from his wonderful 5-inch Unitron, which is a fantastic scope, but it is an achromat, and it suffers from chromatic aberration. And you can see that on the left here. So you have that blue background light. The Jupiter is yellow. The bands are not really the right color. And we use the synthetic blue channel method. Excuse me. Sorry. Synthetic blue channel method on the right, and we get a much more natural, nice dark background. The color balance on Jupiter is much better. It's much more natural looking, and there's no trace of the chromatic aberration. I do want to mention that a critical component of getting this to work well is that you must image through some sort of minus violet filter. So we'll talk about that. There's a guy in here that posted this image. So this is a star image from his Celestron 80DX. I take this as, this is one of the clones of the ST80, I believe. So you get a nice airy disk from the green, pretty good from the red, but the blue is just terrible because an achromat cannot focus all three of these wavelengths at the same time. And what he's done is he's spread out the channels so that you can see them separately. Now, the other thing, this illustrates why we don't want to use the blue channel, because the blue channel is terrible. But if you look in the blue channel image, you'll also see this sort of violet going on here. And there's also some spreading in the red. What's happening is actually color bleed. So this defocused blue light is not only ruining the blue channel, it also ruins the red channel. In particular, it affects the green channel as well. And that's because of color bleed between the channels. So in the Bayer matrix, the dye for the red dye actually has some transmission in the blue, and it has transmission in the green and obviously in the red. And that's true of all the colors. So this defocused blue light will also pollute your green and red channels, particularly the red channels. So a critical feature of getting this to work well is to actually use a minus violet, a violet reduction, whatever you want to call it, a fringe killer type filter that actually kills off the defocused blue light from the green and red channels so that the green and red channels are very clean. It's also true that you need to have an IR cutoff in there as well because the achromat cannot focus the IR light either. So you want to use the filter that I like, that I use, is a William Optics VR1, Violet Reduction 1. Unfortunately, that's not available anymore, but there's the Botter Fringe Killer. You can probably use a pale yellow number 8 filter that's stacked with an IR cut, or a UV IR cut if you have one, won't hurt. You can use a Botter Long Pass 495 filter because it has an IR cut built right into it. SV Bony actually has just released, or is releasing, a fringe killing type chromatic aberration filter that the transmission curve looks pretty good. It's not as clean down at the blue end as my VR1 is, but it looks like it should be perfectly adequate. And it's really reasonably priced. So any of those type of filters that prevents this defocused blue light from destroying your red and green channels, and also that cuts off the IR on the other end, is going to be adequate for this method to work. Okay? So let's jump into SharpCap and look at what it does. So it's daytime here. I don't, I'm not outside, so I'm going to show you this with the test cameras. I'm going to go to the test camera 2, high-speed test camera, and it comes up with this lovely default image of Jupiter. And just to show you what's going on, where it is, in the right-hand panel under Preprocessing is, at the very bottom of Preprocessing, CA Reduction Synthetic Blue. And I'm going to turn that on. There's a few options. I'll talk about that in a minute, but for right now I'm looking at a planet. So I'm going to use solar system, and that's the 2 times the green minus red method. And watch Jupiter. There it is. That's the chromatic aberration reduction. Did you see it? Neither did I. There is no blue channel left in this image. It is all constructed from red and green. It's astonishing. Now, if you don't believe me, this time when I turn it off, watch the histogram over here on the right. So I'm going to turn it off, and in particular, watch the blue channel. The blue channel changes. It's because it's being reconstructed from the red and green channel. Okay? So this is the method that you want to use on planets. This is the method that you want to use on the moon. This is also the method that you want to use on stars, like in a globular cluster. This is the method you would want to use in a galaxy. Anything broadband continuum emission, you want to use this method. And it works astonishingly well. And of course, there's no chromatic aberration in the original here, but you can imagine the blue channel completely defocused. You would have purple bands, you'd have yellow and purple bands, and you'd have this diffused, bathed blue light surrounding Jupiter. It would just kind of look terrible. And this method will fix it. So let's, you know what? We can, real quick, we can prove it. Let's go back up here to John's image. And I'm just going to save that. And I'll just slap it on E drive here. Hopefully the test camera can use a JPEG. I haven't actually tried that. We'll find out. So let's just grab that. Yeah, the test camera can use a JPEG. So we have chromatic aberration reduction turned off. We have 2 versions of Jupiter here on the image. This one's already been treated. The one on the left has that sort of diffused blue light. Jupiter's yellow. It's just kind of nasty looking. And let's just turn it on. And boom. Suddenly, that diffused blue glow is gone. The color balance on Jupiter looks much more natural. This one's been a little post-process, so it's not quite identical. But you can see this is perfectly adequate here. This is great. If you have a classic refractor like a Unitron, or you have a big refractor that you would like to use for some EAA, or maybe take images of planets, but you've avoided it because of the chromatic aberration, this tool will allow you to use that refractor and image the planets. Okay, so let's switch from planets to deep sky. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off again. So in the deep sky test camera, this is the last image that I had brought up. This is an image of mine. This is a globular cluster. This is M13. And you can see that we definitely have, this is an image that I applied artificial chromatic aberration to. So the blue channel is really completely defocused. What that means is bright stars have these blue halos around them. White stars become yellowed. The blue light sort of pollutes stars. You end up with green stars. It's just not very nice looking. So let's go in here and let's try. Again, these are just stars. There's no nebulosity here. So I'm going to stick with the solar system method because stars are kind of broadband emitters. And when I turn that on, suddenly my color balance is restored. So we have blue stars, we have yellow stars, we have white stars, and all of that chromatic aberration, the blue halos, completely gone, right? We even have hints of airy disks. Let's look at a case where we would not want to use the solar system method. And that's going to be a case, well, actually, let's stick with solar system method for just a bit. I'm going to grab, oh, I did not name these intelligently. That was poor planning of me. There we go. That's one we don't want it on. Here we go. So this is a galaxy. This is an image of mine. Obviously, I have composited it with the moon. And again, I've applied synthetic chromatic aberration to this. So you can see that my stars are kind of yellowed. I have these giant nasty blue halos. It's, you know, it's an okay image, but if you don't like chromatic aberration, like I don't, then this is the tool for you. So I'm going to go again to chromatic aberration reduction, and I'm going to use the solar system method because, again, Andromeda here as a galaxy, it's a broadband emitter, and you can see all of that chromatic aberration is now gone, and the color balance is very natural, and yellow stars are yellow, blue stars are blue, although there's not too many intensely blue stars in this image, but we do have some yellow stars, and we have blue emission in the lanes of the galaxy. We have dark brown dust. We have a brownish core, completely natural. All right, let's grab something now where we don't want to use the 2G minus R method. So I'm going to go in and just start at the beginning with this guy. So this is the Great Nebula in Orion. You can see that, whoops, I've already, now, well, this is a good illustration. I had the solar system method on it, and you can see the colors of the Great Orion Nebula have gotten very strange. So let's turn it off. So this is the image with synthetic chromatic aberration applied. So again, yellowed stars, blue halos, not very nice. My nebulosity looks okay, but that chromatic aberration is really messing up my stars. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go in, and first let's talk about why the solar system method doesn't work here. If you turn on the solar system method, the H alpha emission suddenly becomes very orange, right? And that happens because this calculation method where we're creating our synthetic blue channel of 2 times the green channel minus the red. Well, if 2 times the green channel minus the red is less than 0, then this blue channel is going to clip, right? It's going to be black clipped. So that means wherever there's strong H alpha emission, lots of red, but not much green, we're going to clip and we're going to turn that H alpha emission orange. And I'll show you a case where you might like that. But I don't like it on the Great Nebula in Orion. I know what the colors here should look like, and this ain't it. So I came up with a different method, which is superficially very similar, which is green plus green minus red. Well, how is that different from 2 times green minus red? This one actually clips, black clips, when red is greater than green. And then you add that to green. This guy, black clips, when red is greater than 2 times green. And the difference is this method can never fall below, the blue channel can never fall below the green channel. So if we switch to that method, suddenly we have much more natural looking colors for the Orion Nebula, which is this sort of, we have a lot of emission in the H alpha, but we also have a lot of O3 emission. So we get this kind of delicate pink color in the Orion Nebula, which is sort of classic. It does affect the colors. There's no way that it cannot affect the colors, but the compromise that we're making here is we don't have any more chromatic aberration, right? It's totally gone. If we turn it off, we have these blue halos and yellow stars. We turn it on, all of that is gone, and we have a beautiful looking image. Now there is a third method, which is a second deep sky method, and this simply replaces the blue channel with a copy of the green channel. If we turn that on, you can see the nebulosity is very similar. Actually, this image is almost identical either way, because there's not a lot of color in these stars in the first place. You'll find that what this method does do is if you have brilliant star colors, this will affect them pretty significantly. It will turn them into those sort of two-tone, dual-band looking stars that are either red or cyan or usually white. Most stars are white in dual-band images. So I typically like to use this method for deep sky instead. It preserves star colors much better than the other way. And let's use the globular cluster and just look at that. So the globular cluster was this guy, and now you can see that this gives you sort of two-tone stars, whereas this method is a little better at preserving the star colors. It's not as good, by the way, at preserving star colors as this method, right? You can see there's a little more range, a little more richness to the colors. The green plus clip green minus R method, the deep sky 1 method, does shift the colors of the stars a little bit. Orange stars become a little more pink, but you certainly don't get that two-tone star color look that you get from the blue minus green. All right, let's check some more examples here. So we looked at, we haven't looked at this. So this is obviously the horse head and flame. Again, I've got nasty synthetic chromatic aberration applied to everything. My blue channel is completely out of focus. I've got yellow stars. By the way, you'll notice that even though the blue channel is completely defocused, you can still recognize everything in the image. And that is because the luminosity, the contribution to the luminosity of the blue channel is actually very small. It's only about 10%. So the blue channel does not do a lot for luminosity, which is where all the detail comes from. So, and that's another reason why we can feel pretty safe in throwing out the blue channel. Because one, we're replacing it with an approximation to the blue channel, which is actually pretty darn good. Reconstructing it from the green and red channels. But two, the contribution to the luminosity and the detail is very small. And when we replace it with a pretty good approximation, the effect on the detail and the luminosity is absolutely negligible. It's less than 1% change in luminosity. So let's go in here and first let's try that solar system method again and see what happens to the colors. And you can see, well, this is okay, but this H-alpha emission is it's kind of dark red. You might like this. You might choose to go with this for this image. It has turned the H-alpha a little blood red, if you will. It's made it a little more orange. We can switch to Deep Sky 1 and see how that is. And now we have less of a deep blood red sort of color going on here. And for completeness, let's just try Deep Sky 2. Very, very similar. Slightly change the hues. And this is up to you which of these you like. These stars become a little more cyan versus these stars that are a little more blue versus this, which is a little more blood red, a little more orange in the H-alpha emission, but the other colors become a little more warm, if you will. But all of them actually on this target work really well. Let's look at another. We already did that. Let's do this. So this is the Rosette Nebula, and I've already got the method turned on, so can't see the chromatic aberration. So this is, again, synthetic chromatic aberration that I've applied. Yellow stars, blue halos, completely defocused blue channel. Let's see what happens to this image with the solar system method. And here you can see the H-alpha really becomes sort of this blood red orange to it, which you might like. I mean, these are very flame tones to this color. You might like this. But if you want a little more natural looking H-alpha, you might choose one of the other methods. So the Rosette has H-alpha emission, it has strong O3 emission, which is why you get this sort of white color where there's both H-alpha and O3 emission going on. And that's really nice. Let's see if we can get that sort of two-tone star look going with blue equals green. And if you look carefully, you'll notice that all the star color has become sort of two-toned, right? They're either blue or they're kind of teal or cyan. Versus here, we have much more rich variation in star color, but we have this shift in the color of the nebulosity. That's why my favorite for H-alpha emission nebula is this method, the Deep Sky 1. This is really, really close to the original. All of these methods work really well. So there it is. I could go into the a little more detail about why this works, but I don't think I will. If you want, you can read about it on Cloudy Nights. I actually posted 3 different versions of the thread, one in planetary imaging, one in lunar imaging, and one in beginning deep sky imaging. But there it is, chromatic aberration correction. Try it on your fast achromat. If you have one, try it on your F4 achromatic guide scope if you want. And remember, you must, to get the best out of this, image through some sort of minus violet, violet reduction, fringe killer, pale yellow filter. Make sure you've got an IR cut in there, either in the filter itself or stacked with a UV IR cut filter, because you really want clean green and red channels. And by the way, because this occurs in pre-processing, everything downstream of this also works. So you can use this for focusing as well. So if you're focusing your stars, you don't have to worry about those big bloated blue-violet halos. They will be tight and easy to focus using this method. All right, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. Thank you very much.